Welcome to the podcast that will teach you how to successfully invest in and build steady streams of passive income from the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Veteran real estate investors Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart from Mobile Home Park Academy will personally share with you the valuable lessons they've learned along their journey as mobile home park investors, so that you too can learn how to build massive cash flow and huge profits from this extremely lucrative niche. So without further ado, let's welcome your hosts for today's show, Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart.
Welcome, guys and gals, to the Mobile Home Park Investing Weekly Podcast, where we'll provide all the information that you need to know to successfully locate, negotiate, close on, and make huge profits from a lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. I'm your host, Kevin Bupp, and in today's show, we're going to be speaking with Senior Meteorologist and VP of Marketing of HazardCall.com, Gene Norman. HazardCall is a vital service that was developed specifically for the manufactured housing space that creates a seamless and efficient way for community owners and managers to communicate with their residents about approaching impactful and potentially life-threatening weather events, including tornadoes, hurricanes, dangerous thunderstorms, winter snow and ice storms, and others. In addition to potentially saving lives, HazardCall also doubles as a community broadcast tool, allowing managers to communicate with their residents when needed. This means you have 24/7 access to your residents with important information that you have to share with them. Examples include utility outages and estimated time of repair, cold weather pipe reminders, post-evacuation notification to residents who scatter after an event, etc. Needless to say, I can personally see many benefits of having such a service within our communities, which is why we decided to bring Gene onto the show. So with that, guys, I'm excited to get onto the show with Gene. But before we do, I have a few quick mentions to roll through. First and foremost, I'm looking to pay you a big reward for opportunities, okay? Finding great deals. Our team's always looking for opportunities to pay huge finder's fees for deals, or maybe even partner with you on a deal, bring the capital or the operational expertise or both to the equation. So maybe you've got a deal that you can't take down yourself. Maybe you're short the capital, you're short the expertise, or both. We can get involved that way as well. Or again, as I mentioned in the beginning, we can pay a big finder's fee for an opportunity that meets our criteria. You can reach out to me directly via our company website, sunrisecapitalinvestors.com, and submit some basic information about the opportunity, and I'll look forward to chatting with you about it. I also want to remind you about the free 30-minute phone call that I offer each and every Friday. This is a free strategy session where you can get on the phone with me and discuss anything and everything your heart desires regarding real estate investing or mobile home park investing, okay? There's no sales call here. There's no ulterior motive. I'm not going to try to pitch you on coaching programs or anything like that. This is really just a way for you and I to connect. I can act as your sounding board on a deal you're looking at, or maybe just answer some general questions for you about the mobile home park investing space. To schedule this free 30-minute phone call with me, go to my website, kevinbupp.com. Scroll to the right-hand side, about 3/4 of the way down, there's a button that says Schedule Call with Kevin. Just be sure to put some details in there about what it is you'd actually like to talk about during the 30 minutes together, okay? This doesn't really matter if you're brand new or if you're a seasoned investor. Anyone can apply. Anyone can join me on that call. Again, kevinbupp.com to schedule that call. And lastly, guys, if you happen to find yourself in the Tampa Bay area, which is where we're based out of, we're about a quick 20-minute drive from the Tampa International Airport. If you find yourself coming to the area and you've got some free time, I'd love to connect with you. So whether it be a lunch, breakfast, coffee, what have you, reach out to me. Again, best way to reach me is through our company website, sunrisecapitalinvestors.com. Let me know when you're coming to town, and we'll see if our schedules can align with each other. And so with that, I'd like to welcome our guest for today's show, Gene Norman. Gene, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing just great, Kevin, although I wish I was down there in Florida, although we're just as hot here in Georgia as you guys.
Yeah, no, exactly. Where are you based in Georgia, Gene?
So I'm actually in the Atlanta suburb of Roswell. That's where I reside after a 20-plus year career as a television meteorologist. It came to an end a couple of years ago, and I joined HazardCall, which just about 2 years ago produced HazardCall, an exciting new service. I'm really glad to be here to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you as well. You know, I didn't get a chance to stop by the booth at MHI, although one of my partners did. I'm glad he did, because I think you have an invaluable service there that offers a great amount of benefits to manufactured housing community owners. And so, and with that, that's why we wanted to bring you onto the show. Obviously, any type of service that could save lives, it's a big deal, right? I mean, we really care about our residents, worry about their individual safety, and this sounds like the perfect tool to communicate with them about impactful weather events. Again, many parts of the country, depending where you're at, there's a massive tornado events that, occurred, throughout the Midwest just, in the last week or so.
Yeah.
And, you got weather storms, ice storms that happen in the Northeast in the wintertime that can be catastrophic. You've got hurricanes in the Florida area, or Texas, Florida, or really the Gulf Coast, or even up the Atlantic seaboard. Just many different types of natural disasters that can ultimately occur that, again, can be very catastrophic for folks that live in mobile home communities. And so with that, what I'd love for you to do, Gene, if you could take a few minutes, I gave the brief introduction there, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it than just that. Take a few minutes, tell our listeners a little bit more about HazardCall and what exactly it is.
Well, Kevin, it's interesting that I come at this a little bit differently than a lot of other people. I didn't really have much exposure or really knew a lot about manufactured housing until our company, our parent company, HazardCall, partnered with MHI to produce this valuable service. We approached them a couple of years ago and said, I think maybe you guys have an image problem. Our company president, Valerie Sanders, met with their leadership and said, everybody likes to gravitate toward the destroyed mobile home park, if you will, right after there's a big storm. And having been on television, I can tell you that in newsrooms, that's where they want to send the reporter to go stand there. But there can be just as much damage in the site-built home that was hit by the same storm, but it doesn't get the same kind of coverage because it doesn't look as sexy. And unfortunately, we have this really negative stereotype that somehow storms are attracted to manufactured home parks. Nothing could be further from the truth. You saw the damage, if you did, out in El Reno, Oklahoma, where a hotel was severely damaged by the same storm that also damaged the manufactured home park. But do we say, well, we should, close down all the hotels and motels in the country? No, Of course we don't say that. It's just that we know that anchoring is a challenge. There are some other challenges. But one of the biggest challenges, of course, Kevin, is telling people what to do when there is an emergency and where they should go, and that they should even have a plan. There was a survey recently that I heard that said that a lot of the residents in these communities just don't have a plan. They don't really even think about it. Or we all look for excuses for what not to do when we hear that there's a threat of dangerous weather, right? We're all in a state of denial. You living in Florida, I'm sure anytime that the person on TV gets on there and says, well, we're tracking a big storm in the Gulf, your first mindset is, I hope it doesn't hit us, right? You're not saying, come here. We want you to come to Tampa. No, you're saying go away or dissipate or go maybe to Texas, but you don't want it to come to you. We're all looking for a reason not to act, not a reason to act. And so when we approached MHI a couple of years ago, we said, we have developed a process over the last 10 years that has helped a lot of different people in terms of individuals as well as industries know when dangerous weather is coming to them. You may be aware of this, but about a little over 10 years ago, the Weather Service changed the way they put out these severe weather warnings. It used to be based on the whole county, but they changed it so that they focused on where the storm is going. And we have the technology to put you inside that warning and let you know when you're in it. Unfortunately, a lot of the technology that's out there hasn't kept up, Kevin, and it's still based on the county. Having been, as I said, someone on television, I know when we interrupt the Masters, everyone loves when we do that, and we scroll on the bottom of the screen that XYZ County is under a warning, you at home are saying, well, I don't live in XYZ County. Why are you interrupting the Masters? I don't care about that. Well, we solved that problem because we're only going to contact you when you are in danger. So we came to MHI and said, we have the technology to do this, and we'd like to work with you to develop a program, which we call HazardCall, to help your communities know about this, help the on-site managers have a way to instantly message residents when they need to act. Because for a lot of people, we hear sometimes, well, I didn't hear the siren, or I didn't get the warning. When your phone rings, at 2 a.m, you're likely going to pay attention to that. And we've got urgent messaging that not only tells them that there's a storm threat, but it also gives them instructions on what they should do. Find the best available shelter for you. And that means also, Kevin, that some of these folks have to think about where is that? We already have a bunch of clients who have been forward thinking. We have a client in Texas and one in Georgia they have actually installed shelters on their property. And they use our tool to message to their residents, time to get to the shelter. We have another client in Iowa who told me that after seeing what we're doing, that they have changed their entire process, Kevin, so that when they are told that they're under a tornado watch, their managers know to send out a message that says the shelters are now open. And they said it's made a huge difference because sometimes people weren't aware when they should start heading to the shelter. And of course, because of the varying type of population in a manufactured home community, it might take them a long time to get to that shelter because of mobility, health, and other challenges. So to have a heads up, to have a way for the on-site manager to say, hey, I want to keep you safe, I want you to know about this threat, has really been impactful. And I also mentioned earlier on that I didn't have a lot of exposure to this. One of the first things I did was I actually took a tour of some manufactured housing communities in Oklahoma. The manufactured housing state executive director took me on a tour of some of these places, and it was eye-opening. I mean, when I walked in the door, I thought I was in an apartment, an upscale apartment. I didn't know that I was in a manufactured home. It didn't register to me. And I thought, well, gee, there are a lot of people for whom this type of housing is attractive, is affordable. And so, they should have the same advantage to know about a threat that everyone else has. And so we're really excited about the growth that we've seen, not only in what we consider the tornado-prone areas, but we had just onboarded someone, Kevin, in early April in upstate New York. And you're saying, upstate New York, what do they have to worry about weather? Wouldn't you know it? 2 days after we onboarded them, they got their first storm warning. And the manager, when I called her, she said, yeah, we weren't even aware that there was a threat. And that is the beauty of what we do. We're monitoring the weather 24/7. So you don't have to sit there and stare at a radar screen. No one does that except crazy meteorologists like me, and be surprised by a storm. These storms are not a surprise for us. We're monitoring them 24/7. They're a surprise to you because you're living your life. You're not anticipating, even if you watch on TV, people look at the guy on TV, there's a chance we might have a storm. This percentage and slight risk and all these words and terms that most people just tune out, okay? But again, when our phones ring, when you get that message from us, it's the real deal.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. I could truly see the value there. And my question would be, for those normal weather alerts, can that message be customized? For example, when that alert comes through, can there be an additional custom message automatically put into queue that says, hey, severe weather ahead, possible tornado in your area, please go to, our shelter, which is located within the community, or, please go to the local elementary school at this address. Can it be customized, or is it more generic?
Well, our weather alerts that are automated are generic in terms of they tell you, here's the threat, here's what you should do. Now, because we have this additional component of community broadcast, the on-site manager can augment that message with, again, the shelters are open, or we've been told to get to this location or get to that location, or other things like when people have left the property, right? The first thing they want to know is, when can I go back home? So if the community manager finds out from the local emergency officials or the power company that the power will be back on at such a time, he can type out that message on their phone, and then all the residents who were displaced would get that. So if they've gone miles away from their community, they get a text message, power back on at 9 p.m. Now they know, okay, I can plan to start heading back there because they anticipate the power being on at a certain time. So it works together. The messages that we provide are fairly generic because we have to process them that way and disseminate that way. But once the community manager gets that, they can send out an augmented message. That's a great question because it works together. And when we train these community managers, we give them a chance to practice with it and let them see the power of what it can actually do. And they are using it beyond weather. One of the things, I didn't know much about this industry, but a common problem that I've heard is that the water may go out occasionally at a lot of these parks through no fault of the residents because of maybe a construction project that had a mistake or a pipe burst or something like that. And I've been told by some of our clients that they used to have to drive around in a golf cart, knock on doors, do all this crazy stuff to try to get people's attention. Now she says, all I do is pull out my phone, type out a message, and boom, everybody gets it. Or believe it or not, something as benign, at least to me. Again, I didn't know much about this industry, but as, hey, it's a holiday tomorrow, so the trash day will be changed. And again, we heard such great feedback that when they had to use the old method of driving around, maybe everybody got it, maybe people were home, maybe they weren't. Everyone's got a cell phone, Kevin. So
yes,
as soon as they get that message, they know, okay, I got to remember to put the trash out the day after, or on a different day or whatever. So our clients are using this in a variety of ways. Weather is one very important piece, but again, there are lots of things that happen at a community that the residents need to know about. It's a message that needs to get out, and now we've given our on-site managers an easy way to do just that.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful thing. And really, to add to, the question I asked you about, can the initial message, with the weather update be customized? At the end of the day, being a responsible community owner or manager, you need to have some type of, a severe weather plan or like a crisis plan in place. Like there needs to be very specific instructions that residents get at, maybe it's at move-in, as part of their lease signing. If you have a shelter in the community, you need to make sure they're aware where it's at, how to get into it, so that when that message goes out, they actually do know where to go. Or if it's a local elementary school, but you being the owner of that property, it's really your responsibility to make sure that they have clarity on, where is that safe shelter that they need to head to in the event of a situation like this. And it needs to be done ahead of time before the actual event happens. And then you can just remind people, if that weather notification comes in, the manager can simply, remind them of where it's at, but hopefully you've already, prepped them with it ahead of time before the actual event occurs. I'd love to know.
Kevin, that's interesting that you say that, because we had an opportunity to provide that very education at the most recent Tunica show this year, and then last year at the Seco show and the MHI show last year in Vegas. We were invited to make a presentation, not specifically about HazardCall, but about good safety practices. And we actually gave people a handout, and I'd be more than happy to share that one-page handout with you as an attachment to this podcast so that managers who are listening and saying, gee, I don't really have a plan, this would help give them a good foundation upon which to build. I'm not saying you have to have HazardCall to make it work. HazardCall is an important key, though, because if you have a plan, but you don't have a way to communicate, well, your plan really can't be as complete and as effective as it needs to be. And for goodness sake, even if you don't ever get HazardCall, and I would love for you to have it, you need to have a plan. So I want to share that with you and make sure that, if you're listening as a community manager or owner, that you have that and begin thinking and talking to your team. It's so important to talk to the people who are there, the on-site managers, to say, hey, what is it that we need to do better whenever there is a storm? Because after every event, every good organization does kind of a postmortem to say, what do we do right? What do we do wrong? And what can we improve? And maybe not wrong is not the right word, but what was not the best in how we did it?
Sure.
And that could be for a variety of things: fire, chemical leak, anything that falls into the category of emergency requires that you think through how you're going to get people in, how you're going to get people out, and what resources are you going to need.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And what I'd love to do, I think it's appropriate to do at this point, Gene, if we could, I know we discussed this before the call here, is actually doing for those that are actually listening in just an audio format, we're actually going to provide the slide, to you in the show notes section. You'll be able to download it. But Gene's actually going to give us a quick overview and a sample of exactly how the system works real time. So again, for those that are listening just to the audio, go to the show notes section on the website or within your iTunes app, and you'll be able to download it there as well. But let's go ahead and roll with it, Gene.
All right, Kevin. So what people are seeing now that are watching is what we call our ready, set, go safety process. Basically, it's a way of presenting the information that we get from the National Weather Service to our clients so that they're getting a preparation and an evolving sense of how this threat is changing. So first, this is a real example, by the way, from this past week from one of our clients in Iowa, Sunrise Village. So they received a notification that they were at risk for tornadoes. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen for sure, but this is what the Weather Service does. They sort of give a ready kind of a, hey, we're looking at the whole situation here. You see the whole country on that map, and those orange blobs, those are areas where we really have a high confidence that the weather is going to get very, very challenging, if you will, and very, very scary. So what we do then after that is we wait for the Weather Service to put out what's called a watch. In this case, it was a tornado watch. So what happens is that gets pushed to the residents as a text message. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they get that on their phone. They open up the link on the text message and they see a map. But they also see some instructions. I don't know how many times, Kevin, I've talked to people, and again, I've done the weather thing for a long time. They're confused between the words watch and warning. I mean, they just don't get it all of the time. So we want to make sure they understand tornado watch means that tornadoes are possible in the next few hours. And if a warning is issued, know where to shelter. So our messages have a lot more impact than what a lot of people get through free apps and other means, because now they've been given some instructions. Hey, it's not happening now, but it's going to happen soon. So start thinking about, what are you going to do? Do I have something outside planned? Maybe I need to cancel that plan. Does my community have a shelter? Do I need to start thinking about gathering essentials and maybe my elderly relatives to push them in a wheelchair over to that shelter, or whatever it is I need to do? All right. So now you've got that kind of awareness has been raised, right? And then we actually had a warning. This is what people get. But in addition to the imagery, Kevin, we do something so unique. We actually call the residents. Now, we don't call them every time for everything that's going on, but we call them in a case like this. We know that the tornado is confirmed because we are processing these weather alerts in a very unique way. No other service in the country is doing what we're doing, because embedded within the tornado warning is very specific language and coding that we take out and process, and we know, hey, this is confirmed. We're going to call these people. Now, imagine this was 6:52 in the evening, Friday, May 24th. And this is a real-time example. So their phones rang, Kevin. The phones in the neighborhood, all the residents who are registered in this community got a phone call that said, tornado warning. You need to get to shelter. You need to do something, okay? So a tornado has been confirmed in your area. Take cover now. Now you ask, no, this is not a customized message. This is our generic message. But if I'm the on-site manager and I get this, I'm getting on the system and I'm using my community broadcast to type out a message that says, get to the shelter, or something impactful that they might need to know to do. Mm-hmm. So this is what we call our ready, set, go safety process. And I'll stop the sharing to get back. All right, there we go. So I hope that is a good illustration. And again, that slide, along with a few others that kind of augment the concepts that we've been talking about, will be included in some information that I'll be sending to you.
Got it. Guys, and just a reminder, that will be in the show notes as well. So, Gene, I really appreciate that. I think that was very, very helpful. Let's talk about pricing, right? That I'm sure that's probably one of the things, at least, that's on the folks that are listening in their minds, right? Like, what does this service cost to integrate into our communities?
Well, it is all based on the number of slots, the number of units, lots, if you will, on your property. And it just about breaks down to $3.50 per unit per year. Okay, so that is definitely absorbable in a maintenance fee upgrade, or something that you can apply. And a lot of our clients have actually done that. You can either pay it monthly or you can pay it annually. And if you go to our website, HazardCall.com, you can plug into a calculator, how many units do I have? 100, 200, 300, 500, whatever it is. And poof, you'll see the number right there pop on the screen. Mm-hmm. We start our pricing when you have 80 or larger units. So if you have 80 or fewer, it's a flat fee of $300 a year. That comes out to $25 a month. Okay. So again, you can go to our website, calculate it for yourself. It really comes out to almost 50 cents per unit per month, which is, wow, that's like less than the price of a cup of coffee. I'm not sure what you can get for 50 cents a day anymore, but there really isn't anything. But it is really an affordable service that, again, you can use in a variety of ways to let your residents know about benign things, well, not necessarily benign things, but non-weather things, if you will, as well as getting the automated alerts, which are 24/7. And the phone call I mentioned to you earlier, Kevin, that phone call is actually available in English and Spanish. And that has been an attractive feature for a lot of our clients because we know that in certain areas, there is a growing Hispanic community and they appreciate getting that phone call to tell them they're in danger too. We don't want to leave people out when it comes to safety. Our company president, Valerie Sanders, is committed to, making sure that as many people as possible know when there is a threat because we do something so unique. We call them. And again, we don't call people all the time, Kevin. We're only calling folks for some very specific conditions. Confirmed tornado, confirmed golf ball or larger size hail and or 70-mile-an-hour winds, confirmed flash flooding, and hurricane force winds. So if any of those four, and so you think, well, that doesn't happen every day. So we're not calling you every day. But when those things are happening in your neighborhood, the phone will ring, that will get your attention, and hopefully that will incent you to take safety action that you need. Each unit, so to speak, can have up to 2 phone numbers assigned to it. So that'd be perhaps the 2 adults that are living there. Mm-hmm. We can also add others in the unit. We can put in their cell phone number so they'll get the text. They won't get the phone call, but they'll get the text and or email. So we've got lots of ways for everybody in that household to know about this weather threat.
That's fantastic. Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like such a wonderful service. At the end of the day, I'm getting to think here, even from just a liability standpoint, right? We want the best for our residents. That's a given, right? We want to make sure that them and their families are safe, especially in the event of a severe weather event. But with that being said, from a owner's perspective, a liability perspective, the last thing that you want is to be unprepared, that ultimately someone gets hurt in your community, and from a liability perspective of not being the one that, ends up on the news. Community owner did not have plan in place, did not make his residents aware that, a major weather event was occurring, a tornado was on its way to the community, and ultimately, lives were lost. Never, ever does anyone ever want to hear that, but it happens. And putting a protective mechanism in place, being the community owner, I could see this being a huge benefit there. Again, it's really all about the lives and the safety of your residents. But then you also do not want to be in the limelight being the community owner. And I could see to where this would greatly help happening.
Kevin, we actually call this PR insurance, okay? Because you now have something to wave in front of that reporter that comes and wants to stand in front of your demolished property to say, look, I had a process in place. I had a plan. I had a way for my residents to know because they got a phone call. They got a phone call at 2 a.m. that told them that this danger was coming, and they were able to get out and get to safety. What a great story to tell. Mm-hmm. Now that reporter, he has nowhere to go.
Yep.
He can't point the finger at anybody but the sky above and say, well, it was something that happened, but thankfully, these people survived because their manager, their owner cared about them. And let me just go back to that for a second, Kevin, because it's really important. I told you I didn't have a lot of experience with these neighborhoods. And that's the thing that really struck me when I went to go visit them. They're neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
They're people living together, caring for one another. I did not really appreciate that until I went to go tour some of these locations. I saw they had pool parties set up. They had Christmas parties set up, and they had signage about all these things going on. I asked the manager, I said, are people really engaged? And she said, yes. I mean, they love it here. They have brought family members to come live here, friends, because this is a great place to live. Now, I don't know about you, but I've lived lots of places in my life, and I can't quite say that every place I've lived has had that true sense of a neighborhood, okay? And so that really resonated with me. And even to the point that I know that a lot of our clients, the on-site manager lives there too.
Yeah.
So it's not like they go home every day to some other place. They got to go and live in the same, homes that the residents live in. And they have to say to themselves, I want to be safe too. I want to protect my family as well. So for them, it's been invaluable to be able to say that I staked my life on this. Okay. It's so important to me that I stake my life on it. I live here just like you, And I want to make sure that you are protected the same way that I am. And the other part of what we do in terms of liability, I just want to focus on one other element, is when we onboard a community, we ask them to give us all the residents' names and contact information, and then we give them a letter that they can distribute to their residents to say, I don't want this, okay? And there are some people who say, look, don't bother me. Don't call me. Don't text me, I got enough going on my phone. I don't need something else. But what does that give the community owner and the on-site manager?
Yeah.
Proof that somebody said, I don't want this. That way, when something does happen and the person comes to them and says, oh, you didn't tell me about this bad weather. You didn't warn me. You pull out that piece of paper and say, you said you didn't want to know about this.
Yeah,
you have paper trail. You have something to actually, use to protect yourself. So the liability has several layers, and that's what we love about it, is that, we call it that PR insurance, but it's also that peace of mind that you're doing everything you can. And at the end of the day, you want to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I did everything I could. And yes, there will be times when the power of the storm, as we saw over the last couple of days here, has been overwhelming.
Yeah.
But at least you're doing something. You're doing the best you can. And at the end of the day, your residents will appreciate that you are trying. You show the effort. You show the care and concern. Mm-hmm. What does that do for you from a marketing point of view? What does that do for you from a retention point of view? I mean, there are so many layers to this. It's not just that you get these weather alerts and that you get this community broadcast. One other feature that I really didn't focus on before, I want to quickly point on it. We have something called Community Watch. It was actually an idea that was given to us by one of our early clients. He said, I can type out a message that goes to everybody, but what if the residents could talk to each other? And I thought, well, okay. So our developer went off and put that feature in there, and they've actually used it because you want to be careful in this situation, obviously. You don't want people, being able to just free range, say whatever they want to say, right? However, it's moderated. You assign a moderator, you assign a gatekeeper, if you will. So when they get a ping that says, hey, Willie wants to put out a message, you read Willie's message. Maybe Willie, got into the sauce last night and he's feeling himself, right? So maybe we don't want his message going out there. So you block it. But somebody else says, you know what? I saw a suspicious animal in the neighborhood last night. Now, you as a community manager may not have seen that, but a resident may have. A resident you trust, someone that you know is level-headed, responsible. You say, yeah, I want everybody else to know about that. And you let that message go out.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay?
No, that's
fantastic. And so that's just another feature. So it's the three main features: the community broadcast, community watch, and the instant weather alerts.
Okay, I love it. I love every bit of it. And at the end of the day, the cost is so minimal. I mean, really. I mean, when you really break it down, the cost is such a minimal amount of money that it really just makes sense to have the service. I mean, there's probably some areas of the country where there aren't many severe weather events, but at the end of the day, again, the cost is so minimal that just about any size community can really absorb the money we're talking here. That's
we don't have time to show the graph. Yes, so we don't have time to show this graphic that I made up, but I will include it for the viewers and the listeners. You'll be surprised of the number of tornadoes that have occurred in this country. 12, a dozen this year have occurred in California. Wow. And you might say to yourself, really? California? Yeah. Again, having done the weather for a long time, my motto is never say never.
Yeah.
Just when you think you've seen it all, think again. And there have been many times I've scratched my head, which doesn't have any hair left on it, to say, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen. I have never seen that before. I share with you the story about the upstate New York community that was surprised that they got this storm, which we tagged or we identified that it had been seen as a storm with 70 plus mile an hour winds and larger than golf ball size hail. And I called the manager the next day. She said, yeah, trees are falling left and right. Wasn't expecting it. Didn't think it was going to happen.
Yep. No, that's wonderful. Is there anything else, Gene, that we maybe haven't touched on that you feel is relevant and important for our listeners to know regarding your service?
Well, I think the really important thing is that we've experienced a lot of growth, okay? Mm-hmm. Because, as you said, people have discovered that this is affordable, that this, has a great impact to be able to reach their residents. And I think the other thing that people need to recognize is that it is easy to set up. The biggest challenge you as a community owner will be collecting resident information. But once you do that, and put it into the system, maintaining this is fairly easy to do. Mm-hmm. And we help you every step of the way. We've got how-to videos to teach your residents how to put the app on their phone. When you as a community manager get trained, you get an app, our HazardCall app. I'm going to try to bring it up here, but I'm probably going to mess it up, so I won't do that. And when we launch the service in your community, we send all the residents a link. All the residents who have smartphones can get a link where they too can download this. And they may decide, I don't want this on my phone. Don't worry about it. There's nothing you have to do. If you don't want it, you don't get it. Okay? You don't get the app, but you do get the ability to get the alerts. So having the app is a bonus. And one of the things that the app does is it lets you see actual weather information. You get a forecast. There's lots of cool things. I don't have the ability to put this on the screen at the moment, but you can go to our website and see some examples of some of that. Again, we have a lot of resources that we've developed over a short period of time and that we're constantly refining to help the community manager feel comfortable in using it, to help the residents know what it does. And again, there are going to be some enthusiasts in your communities who really like this, who really think this is really cool because they can look at all this neat weather information and it's all live. And there are some others who are going to say, I don't care about that. And that's fine because there's nothing they need to do. Once the community is launched, we start the service. Then anytime there is the example I showed you before, a confirmed tornado warning or a watch is issued, that shows up on that resident's phone. They don't have to have the app to do it. And so that makes it really easy to implement. So I think that's the other thing. Ease of implementation is really important.
Got it. I love every bit of it, Gene. And I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all the information about this awesome service. So, and just remind folks that we're going to put in the show notes, both, contact information for learning more about HazardCall, but also the presentation slide that we went through here on the call. And then in addition to that, Gene, you're also going to share, I believe it was the 1-page instructions on actually putting together a plan in place in your community, correct?
That's right. Hey, Kevin, there's more.
There's more?
There's more.
Okay. Let's do it.
Because what I'm going to include it'll be a PDF that'll have the slide I showed you. It'll also have a link to where you can start a free trial for your community. Okay? A free trial that'll just be that the community manager and maybe one or two other staff members are on the account to receive the alerts. So they can kind of see how it works.
Okay.
And then if they upgrade from the free trial to a paid account, we're going to give them 10% off the first year because we know that they came in from Kevin Bupp's great investing podcast. How about that?
Fantastic. I love it. Yeah. I love discounts. I'm always looking for a value. Well, fantastic, Gene. This has been an absolute pleasure. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Make sure next time at one of the industry events, I'll come up and shake your hand in person. And unfortunately, MHI is always such a whirlwind, and it just didn't happen there.
Oh, I know.
I'm glad we were able to connect here and very much appreciate your time. And we'll stay in touch, okay?
Absolutely, Kevin. It was a pleasure talking with you and sharing with your audience. I look forward to hearing any questions that people have. Again, my contact information will be in that PDF. It's only about 6 or 7 slides, along with that offer I mentioned. So we're really excited to, again, engage with you. You can go to our website, HazardCall.com, and get all the information about this great service. And there are also forms there where you can, fill out and say, I heard you on the Kevin podcast, and I want to get some more information, and we'll be happy to talk with you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gene. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Take care, man. Enjoy the sunshine.
Congratulations for taking the necessary steps to achieving massive success through the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Be sure to visit our website, mobilehomeparkacademy.com, to download your free digital ebook version of the 21 biggest mistakes investors make when buying their first mobile home park and how you can avoid them. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our free monthly mobile home park investing newsletter, which is jammed full of valuable tips, tricks, and strategies to help you accelerate your path to success as a mobile home park investor. More information about this podcast and its hosts can be found by visiting mobilehomeparkacademy.com.